Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to yet another video at Moto Mindset. And today we're going to review the Yamaha FZ6 S2 from 2007. And this is a special bike because this is the bike of my brother, and I've ridden it before, but I didn't have a GoPro back then, so now I took the time to make a video of the riding experience as a first time rider on the Yamaha FZ6. So if you're new to this kind of content, I make a Excel sheet and rate on a lot of different parts on where you can what you have to take into account when choosing your first bike, and I make a detailed list, and there comes a score, and that kinda tells you a little bit if it's sensible to buy it as your first bike. So let's get this party starting. To start, the first category is riding, and the first subcategory of riding is engine power. And to start with numbers, this bike has 98 brake horsepower. Oh, I shut off. Yeah, I'm new to this bike, at least it's not my bike, so I just don't give enough gas. Second time. Sorry guys. I'm a beginner rider just as you are. So this bike has 89 brake horsepower, which is not a crazy amount like 200, but it's certainly something you have to be aware of, and you can seriously damage yourself opening the throttle. So engine power wise, I rate this bike a 6. Next up we have the engine power delivery. So how does it deliver its power, which is very important when you're a new rider. Some bikes are give a lot of power low end or only high end, or very smooth, or the progression is very even or uneven, or your rear tire locks up when you do something wrong or anything like that. So that's all engine power delivery, and I have to say this is probably the smoothest as it can get. It's even smoother than my V4 Honda I drive daily, which is known for being very smooth. So engine power delivery wise, I rate this bike a 10. Next up is the weight. It's definitely not a small bike. It's more of a weighty bike, which lets you you definitely feel the weight, and that makes it a little harder to do like the slow stuff maneuvering. You really have to work inside the corners. The bike my brother is riding in front of me is a Kawasaki Z something else. I will look it up. I driven it before recording this video, and it's way easier because it's very light. So weight wise, it's a little on the heavy side. If you are a heavy rider, it might work in your favor, but generally wise, you have to work harder to get your corners right, and therefore it scores a 7. Next up is stability, and stability is of course very important if you're a new rider. Oh, I put it in neutral. This is not my bike. So stability wise, it's very good. It's not the best I ever ridden stability wise, but you really get confident pretty soon on this bike, especially on higher speeds. You feel this bike is made for like 100 kilometers an hour plus. The lower things, probably the weight, it feels a little bit weirder than the high speed maneuvering, and therefore stability wise it scores a 8. Next up we got aerodynamics, and this bike does a very decent job to put you in your in the right spot, and to cover you from the wind and stuff like that, and that is very nice because you want to as much as you probably love to ride the motorcycle, you will get tired from all the wind and stuff like that, and it really felt like we like the bike and I were cleaving the wind instead of we were fighting the wind, and that is not very common, less common than you might think in my opinion. It's all my opinion. You do what you do. You do what you want to do with it. Therefore, aerodynamics wise, I rate this bike a 9. And then fun. Well, it's a beautiful bike. It's fast. It's controllable. It's a little bit on the heavy, so you have to really work your corners, and you really don't want to underestimate the power. But if you can handle the power, if you can handle the weight, it's very fun, and therefore it scores an 8, which brings the total of an 8 as well. So the first category riding, this bike scores an 8. Next up, we got the category reliability, and it's a Yamaha. What do you think? So overall reliability, I searched the internet. I asked my brother, who owns his bike a long time, and I asked some other people who I know got a Yamaha FZ, so like a phaser, and they're pretty darn bulletproof. There are some minor things, like every bike has some minor things, but the ball mount in the steering wheel can go wrong, and then you should replace it with something not original, because they're known to go wrong. But other than that, those bikes are amazingly bulletproof, and therefore it scores a 9. And there you might think, why is not a 10? Well, there's only one 10 on this list, and that's the Honda VFR. You know that, right? Then the next category is age, and a lot of people are angry at me that I included the age in the reliability, because the bike can't help it, it's old. But it really it definitely incredibly helps breaking down. And some bikes age better than others. So it's from 2007, it's not new, and some things might break. My brother told me nothing broke on his so far, and again, they're very reliable, but they get a little bit older, so you need to take into account some parts might break, and therefore the reliability, age-wise, it scores a 6. Next up is knowledge, and those bikes are very popular, which is amazing if you want to have someone help. If you ask the community something, almost everyone had one or has one in the garage, or has a friend who rides this kind of bike, and that really helps with overall knowledge and support and help like that. And therefore, knowledge wise, reliability scores a 9. Next up is parts availability. There's basically no parts you can't get. New parts are in plenty in stock, and old parts as well. Old parts because they're built and sold very well, and new parts because Yamaha just keeps the supply on, which is great. And again, this is not for every bike. Some rarer bikes are parts getting hard to get, or original parts getting harder. Not the case with this bike. So also parts availability, this bike scores a 9, and that brings the total of reliability to also an 8, which is fun. So we got 2 8s, riding and the reliability. Next up, we got safety. Safety might also be very important if you're choosing your first motorcycle, but I might be wrong. And safety got 3 categories. So the first one is brakes, and this bike packs some amazing brakes. 2 front rotors and 1 rear rotor. It's pretty common, but somehow they just work very good. Maybe the service has been done to this bike pretty recently or stuff like that, but I read online, and Yamaha really took time to install some serious brakes on those bikes, which props for Yamaha, because not everyone does that. But so brake wise, surprisingly good. Serious front brakes, rear brake is also good. Yeah, so brake wise it scores an 8. Next up, it has ABS. Yes, it does, which is very important if you're a beginner rider. I won't say it's necessary, but if you don't have it, you really need to know. You feel the power. This bike is fun. It really is. And I tested some braking with ABS. and it works flawlessly every time. So therefore a 10. Yeah, there's just a 10. Then visibility. This is a little in the middle of the area that some bikes had LED lights, some had halogen, or however you call it, and some were even older techniques. This bike is just in the middle. It's not the best of the best, but it's definitely not the worst. I've seen way worse lightning on bikes, especially older bikes. But yeah, visible. So after like 8 or 9,000 RPM, it really flies, as you can see in the clip right now. Light wise, it's okay. There are better lights, there are way worse lights, and therefore it scores a 7, which brings the total up for safety to 8.33. And then the last category, and that is price. And the first subcategory of price is the purchase price. How much do you have to pay nowadays to buy one of the bikes? And they're pretty cheap, which is good. You don't want to be your first bike to be very cheap. I'm just making an extra round because my brother was behind a very slow moving car. You don't want to be, in my opinion, you don't want to be your first bike to be very expensive. It will scare the shit out of you if you try something stupid like this, for example. You know, just for example. So in my opinion, should not be too expensive. And those bikes start around 2,500 euros. Well, at least here in the Netherlands, which is very decent for your first bike, in my opinion, and it's very reliable, and therefore purchase price it scores an 8. Maintenance cost. I asked many people who drive these bikes, and first of all, nothing breaks. If something breaks, parts are cheap. Parts are it's easy to work on, and there's basically almost nothing you have to replace. So price, maintenance cost wise, you really can't go wrong. Yeah, we sometimes have to do this. This bike is too much fun to not do this. Maintenance cost wise, it scores therefore a 9. And the last one is operation cost. How much does it cost to own this bike? And there are two things to take into account. How much is to insure? Well, that is on the more expensive side because it's a little bit more higher horsepower than you might want as your first bike. But it's very good on gas. So, like 1 liter brings you 25 kilometers for. I don't know the American translation for that, but you can look it up for yourself. So it's very good on gas, and the insurance is not crazy expensive. It's also not crazy cheap, and therefore operating cost it scores an 8, and that brings the subtotal of price to an 8.33. And that brings the total of this amazing Yamaha to an 8.17. Which means, go ahead, buy this bike. The only thing you need to worry about is the weight. It's fast, it's decently fast, but you really have to rev it up to feel the power. So I think if you're not a completely moron, you should be able to handle. But it's fast. It's very reliable, it's fun, it's a little bit heavy, but yeah, I would recommend buying this bike. It's an amazing bike. Again, thank you for watching. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe, like, share, do whatever you want, and I hope to see you in the next video. Of course, like every week, I insert a video of my dog, and therefore I will generate 1 million subscribers in like 0.10 of a second. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Later!